All right, two of the absolute biggest names in AI just rolled out some massive upgrades. And honestly, the timing here couldn't be more interesting. What we're actually looking at is a fundamental clash of philosophies. When you put them head to head, these two models seem to be chasing completely different visions of what an autonomous assistant should even be. So, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to completely strip away the marketing hype and take a really deep dive into what we're calling the benchmark illusion. Right off the bat, we are faced with a sheer paradox. Look at this. On one side, Claude Opus 4.7 just handed ChatGPT 5.5 an absolutely humiliating 7-0 wipeout in advanced reasoning tests. I mean, in high-level logic, math, scientific reasoning, Claude completely swept the board. By every traditional benchmark standard, it is the smartest AI on the planet right now. But then you look at the API costs. Claude is quietly draining development budgets, costing up to 3.5 times more to run than ChatGPT. And honestly, that brings us right to the central mystery of our explainer today. If Claude is without a doubt the smarter model, why are elite developers quietly moving their most complex daily workflows back to ChatGPT? Why on earth would you choose the model that technically lost the tests? I mean, why deploy the benchmark loser? Well, to understand why developers are making this shift, we need to completely update how we view these tools. The old way of thinking treats AI like a simple chatbot, right? You ask a question, you get an answer. But modern coding, that is an agentic benchmark. What we're actually testing for now is agentic persistence. That's the ability of an AI to be left completely alone for, say, a 20-hour window to autonomously navigate a terminal, execute its own tools, figure out why it failed, and then recover on its own. It's really about surviving out in the wild, not just passing a written exam. So let's break down exactly why Claude pulled off that flawless 7-0 sweep. Think of Claude Opus 4.7 as this brilliant thinker. It operates on a very meticulous, measure twice, cut once kind of philosophy. When it's faced with a really complex problem, it doesn't just blurt out the first answer it thinks of. It painstakingly shows its work, outlining its entire thought process step by step. And get this. That approach actually dropped task abandonment in long workflows by a massive 60%. And this next point brilliantly illustrates the difference in how these two are wired under the hood. Researchers actually put both models through impossible physics and logic puzzles, and the results were super revealing. ChatGPT 5.5, being the eager-to-please assistant that it is, literally hallucinated a fake answer just to make the user happy. But Claude 4.7, it maintained its integrity. It looked at the parameters and honestly just admitted, hey, this task simply cannot be solved. And beyond just pure logic, Claude 4.7 got a massive visual upgrade. We're talking a bump up to an astonishing 3.75 megapixels. To put that into perspective, if you need an AI to read incredibly dense UI dashboards, or analyze intricate charts, or map out complex visual architecture, Claude is the undisputed king right now. Its ability to process that kind of high-resolution visual data is literally unmatched. But, and this is a pretty big but, beneath all that brilliance, some cracks are definitely starting to form. Despite being this elite reasoning engine, Claude 4.7 has some really surprising regressions. It actually got worse at web research and synthesizing sources compared to its last version. It now actively struggles to figure out when source materials contradict each other, and its citation accuracy has noticeably dropped off. So it's a brilliant thinker, sure, but lately it's kind of a sloppy researcher. All right, let's pivot and look at the other side of the ring. ChatGPT 5.5 just scored a massive 82.7% on Terminal Bench 2.0. And guys, this is a total game changer for developers, because while Claude is sitting there pontificating on impossible logic puzzles, ChatGPT is out there absolutely thriving in the messy trenches of real-world development environments. Because here is the crucial takeaway. ChatGPT 5.5 is essentially the rapid builder. It is highly specifically optimized for structured execution and command line tasks in real, live workflows. It doesn't want to sit down and write you a philosophical essay about the code you asked for. It just wants to write the code, execute it, and move on. It is built from the ground up for high-speed action. And that difference brings us to a really massive technical hurdle that we call context rot. See, when you put Claude into a live autonomous agent loop, like let's say you tell it to build a website over the next few hours, it narrates everything. It literally writes paragraphs explaining what it's going to do before it even does it. And over time, all of this constant essay writing completely clogs up the context window with the useless narrative. It degrades the AI's performance, and eventually it just loses track of the actual code it was supposed to be writing. Which leads us directly into what we're calling the hidden token trap. When you look at the exact same coding task, ChatGPT 5.5 uses 72% fewer output tokens than Claude 4.7. Let me just repeat that. 72% fewer. Because ChatGPT just executes the command without writing a novel about it first. It is unbelievably efficient with its output. Now, why does that matter? Because this token discrepancy quickly snowballs into a massive financial issue. API providers charge significantly more for output tokens than input tokens. So, because Claude is so incredibly verbose, its constant narration is just quietly bleeding your API budget dry. In long, autonomous workflows, running Claude carries a 3.5 times financial penalty compared to running ChatGPT. Look, being the smartest model in the room doesn't really matter if the AI talks too much and bankrupts your entire automation budget, right? Oh, and the costs actually don't stop there. Claude 4.7 rolled out a brand new tokenizer. And while it is absolutely fantastic for optimizing foreign languages, it actively hurts your standard English-speaking developers. We call this the English token penalty. This new architecture quietly inflates standard English prompts by anywhere from 12 to 18%, which basically means you are paying a premium for every single instruction you send over to the model. Now, before you go and move your entire tech stack over to ChatGPT 5.5, I do need to give you a quick warning. Because GPT 5.5 is so heavily optimized for that structured command line execution, it is absolutely terrible for creative and SEO writing. It leans way too heavily on these highly generic, numbered, and bulleted lists that just read like a robot wrote them. And unsurprisingly, those articles consistently fail to rank on search engines. Like we said, it's a builder, not a writer. So as we all start to embrace these autonomous builders, there is one massive, highly critical question that remains largely unanswered in the dev community. How do we safely sandbox these agents during live execution? I mean, it's amazing that an AI can navigate a terminal by itself for 20 hours, but what happens when it suddenly hallucinates and decides to run a destructive command that wipes your entire live database? The security protocols for this kind of unsupervised terminal access are still dangerously underdeveloped. So how do we actually architect a system that maximizes that brilliant logic while protecting our budgets and our databases? The answer is building a hybrid router. It's a two-step game plan. Step 1, you route your high-volume, straightforward, structured tasks directly to GPT 5.5. Let the workhorse do the heavy lifting at a fraction of the cost. Step 2, you reserve Claude Opus 4.7 exclusively for deep, complex logic review, reading dense, visual dashboards, and high-level architecture planning. Because the reality is, the era of the all-in-one model is officially over. It's time to start routing. Deploying a single model for your entire workflow is just an outdated strategy now. The future really belongs to the developers who understand the unique economics and architectures of each specific model, and who use a hybrid workflow to perfectly balance high-speed execution with brilliant methodical logic. So, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought today. As you look at your own development environment and the tools you're building with, ask yourself, is your automation budget actually prepared for the hidden token trap, or are you still blindly chasing benchmark illusions? It's time to stop just looking at test scores and start looking at the real economics of scale.